We're back, baby. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Garmin. This is the Storycraft Society, and for those who were following along last week, stuff happened here. Just as a very quick update, the current theory is that lightning struck the electrical line that went from the pole to our house. It blew the ground wire up. It was a mess. We had to replace all the surge protectors in the house. But as of right now, no electronic casualties were had. It has been crazy going from last week where we were a couple of days without power to now and trying to get everything back on track. So it feels good to be back here on the table with y'all and putting out another video. So, what are we going to be doing today? Well, before last week, I actually filmed a video that is not going to be coming out until next week. In that, I did a whole bunch of block carving. Now, I didn't really have time this week to do a big, full, in-depth video, so I figured I'd do something that was a little bit easier for me to do to ease back into all of this, and that's going to be talking about brick carving. Now, huge disclaimer that I will put on top of this. I am not a good brick carver. It is not something that I like to do. I much prefer to glue the individual little tiny foam bricks on like a person who has no time or life. But the thing is that this is a skill that I think we should all be working on. And as I slowly get better at it, I like to show that journey with you all. So what I decided to do was I cut up 3 little blocks of XPS foam, and I'm going to show you my current 3 levels of detail when it comes to carving block. It's as simple as it sounds, so let's dive into number 1. I'll go over what tools you need, and then I will show how to do it. So to jump into level 1, the first thing that we're going to need is an X-Acto knife, and the other one we're going to need is a rolled up tinfoil ball. This is probably one of the oldest tricks for texturing stone in foam modeling. It's also really easy and really accessible for a lot of folks, but you definitely are going to need a set of X-Acto blades. Another thing that is worth mentioning is that for this whole entire process, the sharper your blade is, the easier of a time you'll have with cutting the foam. Level 1 is very simple. Really, all we're going to do is we're going to score our foam in some horizontal lines. And then we're going to do vertical lines. The more random you make this, the more antique your stone will look, right? So if you do it really cleanly, really straight, like with a ruler, you'll end up with a modern looking concrete block. But if you do it by hand and you try to keep them a little jagged and uneven, you'll end up with more of an old stone look. I'm definitely going for that more older stone look here. I'm going to keep it a little bit more uneven. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a pencil. I guess I should have probably included that in the materials list. And I'm going to take and open all these lines up. One swipe with most foams should be enough at this stage. And as you finish this up, you're then going to have this look. Then it's time to pull out our tinfoil ball, and we're just going to press that into the surface of the block. I like to try and kind of make this rolling pattern and then come at it from different directions so I don't get the same shape over and over again. Different foams also require different levels of pressure. Some require more, some require less. And the more you play with this, the more you kind of get the feel for it. But with that said, if we look at that, that is level 1. With this said, this is very easy to do. This is something that for a first project, anybody should be able to accomplish with just a little bit of patience. But this isn't the best look that we're gonna get. So just remember that. That's our level 1. Now let's move on to level 2. Our tools list for level 2 is definitely going to be the same to start with. We're definitely going to need our sharp bladed X-Acto knife, a tin foil ball, a pencil, but we are also going to need a second pencil. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but with this, I have one pencil that's sharp and one pencil that is more dull. This is on purpose. We're going to need both of these. The final tool that I like to use for this is a set of tweezers. And tweezers are going to be really good once we get into kind of the later stages of doing this block carving. We're going to start this off the exact same way that we did the other one. I'm going to carve in my horizontal lines, and then we're going to offset all of these lines. Then I'm going to widen them with a pencil, just like before. We're going to take our tinfoil ball, and we're going to do its job just like we did. And now we are in the exact same place that we were with level 1. But to take this up to level 2, we're now going to pull out our dull pointed pencil, and we're going to run all these lines again. And if you notice, that is going to widen all of those lines, giving us more of a defined block texture. And just right there, the difference is pretty noticeable. But then we have all of these little pieces that make these unnatural looking points. That's where our tweezers are going to come in. So now what we're going to do is go in and get one of those little points, and I'm going to just rip that corner off. And if you have a little bit extra, you just kind of peel backward. Notice that ripped a little chunk out. I'm going to do that all across the piece. A real trick with this is the more you do, the more antiqued and weathered your stone will look. And you can do some little sections, you can do some big sections, all of which will start to antique your stone. Now, then what I'm going to do is go over that again one more time with the ball here. And anytime you see any of these little areas where there's like a little tiny piece, you can just go ahead and pull those out to get your lines defined. Then the last thing that I like to do when I do stonework like this is I'm gonna go back in with my X-Acto, and I'm just gonna rerun these lines very gently. Then I'm gonna take my sharpened point pencil and rerun those to just make sure that all of my block is defined. And then if any more of those little points show up, then I will go ahead and remove those, and then repeat the process if I have to get those looking finished up. And now we have a more convincing block texture. And if you compare that to level 1, I mean, obviously the difference is pretty staggering. A little tiny bit more effort and you get a lot more variation in your block, and it feels a lot more blocky. So now for level 3, we're gonna need the same tools that we needed for level 2 with one exception. In our X-Acto kit, I like to use this blade right here. I have this blade that allows me to push at the foam. You'll see why here in a second, but with the exception of this blade, everything else is gonna be exactly the same. So we started off getting this to the exact same location as we did for our level 1 block, with the exception that I have not textured it yet with the tinfoil ball. So what we're going to do first, we're going to start selecting some of these blocks, and we're going to start cutting them away. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can do this direction where you're cutting with the blade at an angle like that. You can do a full piece. So that's going to be coming all the way across and cutting down so it takes the entire piece off. And these little edges that look ripped, are actually pretty cool, and they end up helping with the look of the stone. So don't be afraid to leave those kind of ripped and torn. The final way that we can do it is to pull out this piece, and that will actually let you do this direction. So this one, it's easy to come from the edge and go up, but now what if I wanted to come from the middle and go down towards the top? I now can take a tool like this and push this down into the stone like that. And just rip that out. Just like so. You can do that same thing if you go this direction. So instead of going up and down, you can go horizontally, and then you just go back and forth with those tools, getting as much of that as you can to get you your variation in your block. The goal here is to get three-dimensional texture happening. So you want blocks that are lower than other blocks. You want all kinds of different shapes and textures. That's gonna make the wall now become 3D, very similar to the way that you can get out of doing laid block. So then once you have it to a point that you're happy with, then you can take your X-Acto knife and rerun all those lines. And then once you do that, then you can go back over all of them with your sharpened pencil. And now you should have something like this. We're going to take out our tinfoil ball, and we're gonna run over the whole thing now with it all textured up. Not textured up, carved up. And now we should be looking like this. Now we're gonna go in and do the exact same thing we did with our tweezers. And now with that finished, we should have a 3D block texture that really looks laid and not carved. If you take that and compare it to the level 2, from the front, it's not that much of a difference. But if you go this direction, now you can really see it's so much more 3-dimensional, where some blocks are pushing in and some blocks are pushing out. And if you take that level 3 and compare it to level 1, it really does make a big difference. Although I think I can safely say that going from level 1 to level 2 is a much bigger difference than going from level 2 to level 3 from the front anyway. Let's start the end of this video off with a disclaimer and then a thought. So the disclaimer is, I am not that good at carving foam. It is not something that I've spent my time in. So therefore, you might look at these and be like, wow, they are not that great. But to me, they are what I can do. And then that leads into the next thing, which is what is so good about this hobby, is that there are so many different ways that you can tackle a project. It literally comes down to the types of jobs that you like doing. There are definitely people out there who find it abhorrent to try and glue 1,000 little teeny tiny bricks down. I have a video on my channel where I did over 14,000 bricks. I counted. So my thing is that this is not necessarily my strong suit, but if you're a beginner or somebody who is just getting into carving foam, hopefully this video is something that you will find useful, because it's going to be probably similar in that skill level of learning how to do basic carving stuff. And if I'm being totally just completely honest, this level 3 is more than good enough for anything that I will ever do in this hobby. If it gets much more detailed than that, the amount of time it would take for you to do an entire piece would be so ridiculous that, at least for me, that would not be a good usage of my time. But that's it for this video. What do you think you would get the best bang for your buck? Level 1, level 2, level 3? Which one do you think you would spend your time doing? If there's something that I missed on one of these, maybe an easier way to do something or a little simple extra step that somebody could add into a project that would require this kind of foam carving, leave that down in the comments below, because that can help all of us to get a little better and do a little bit better job at the hobby that we love. But that's it for this video. I know it was kind of a punchy, quick little tiny skills video, but sometimes those are what are important to get us moving on. And next week, you will see these in action in an actual project. If you enjoyed this video, definitely do all of the YouTube things like subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, like the video. The number one way that you can help any small YouTube channel out is to share their content with someone that you think would enjoy it. That helps with metrics, that helps with all of that fun stuff. And if you do that for the Storycraft Society, I appreciate it so much. But that's it. That's all I got for this week. So until next week, I'll be seeing you.